Okay, it's a new slogan. Yt.א-yt.ב Aleph. We're holding up Yt.א-yt.b Aleph. Okay, what did we discuss here? In the past, we discussed the idea of Megilas Tanis. Megilas Tanis, to recap, Megilas Tanis was a Megillah that was written by Zechariah ben Chanina ben Cheskia, and then people added dates. What is Megilas Tanis? Different dates that good things happen to the Yidden, and therefore those dates are not, you're not supposed to fast or make a hesped, eulogize anyone. And the Machlekes we were in the middle of discussing was whether when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, was the Megilas Tanis bottle, and therefore all those dates go down, and you could fast those dates, and you could make eulogies those days, or was it not bottle? And as a side note, we said that even according to the opinion that the Megillah is bottle, nullified, and all those dates are now open for fast days, that is only for private fast days, but the public is not supposed to make a fast day if something happens on those days. Okay, so that's Megilas Tanis. So now we're still discussing whether it is true or not that Megilas Tanis was bottle, was nullified, was taken away when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So this is where we're holding in middle of Afites Amud Aleph, Masiv Daf Tuve B'Masna. So Tubman asked the question about this idea that Megilas Tanis was bottle. What is the same? This is a line starting Kediva Toyatame. There's a dot right before you. Okay, Masev Avtov Masna. This is what is written in Megilas Tanis. Be'esrim Utmanya Be, the 28th day of Adar. Rashi says it's an Adar. Osas Besulta Tofta, a good, what's it called? A good Besulta Toiva. Came le'yidoi to the Yidden. The le'yidun me'araisa did not have to separate themselves from the Torah. What happened? Shegaza Malchus Gzeira, the regime, whoever was in charge then, made a Gzeira. Shle'yasku b'Torah, people should not learn Torah. The Shloya Mula is b'neim, they should not do a bliss. V'sheichal l'Shabbos is nishmim chal Shabbos. Ma also Yehud ben Shemua, what did Yehud ben Shemua do? V'chaveirav, holchu v'not lo eitza, they came and inquired by Matunisa Achas, by a very important royal lady in Rome, that all the big hotshots of Rome would be, would go to her, get advised by her. Basically, she was a very big, important woman. And they asked her, what should we do? This Matunisa, this important royal lady, told them, Boyu v'havginu Hafgana, let's go and make a Hafgina, let's make a demonstration. Balayla at night, go screaming in the city. They went out in the city in the middle of the night and they started screaming around the homes of the senators, whoever passes laws in Rome at the time. Amu, what did they say when they were demonstrating? What were they screaming? They were saying like this: Ishamayim, listen, for the sake of heaven, aren't we your brother? Aren't we the sons of the same father? Aren't we the children of the same mother? What was this? We're talking about Edom. Edom was the offspring of Esau. Yeah, Inigo of Esau. So Yavon, Rome, this is all Esau. So they went to basically Esau's grandchildren and told him, we are brothers. Meaning your forefather and our forefather, Yaakov and Esau, we're brothers. We are also from the same father, from Yitzchak, from the same mother, Livka. So the Mashal explains here that why did he mention these three things? Because the fact that they are brothers, Yaakov and Esau are brothers, is mentioned many times in the Torah. And basically they wanted to point out, don't give us this decree that we can't learn Torah. It's written in the Torah, Yaakov and Esau are brothers. We're brothers. The fact that it says that they basically reminded them that Yitzchak is their father, is the idea Yitzchak was the first person that got a bliss at 8 days. They wanted to basically hint to them, let us do bliss. And the mother, obviously, they wanted to light Shabbos candles, etc. Okay, so that's what they did. And they continued saying, Manish Tanina, why are we different? With what changed that we are different? Mikol Velosh from any other nation. Sha'atem goizim on the that you go and decree very difficult decrees on us. Obitlum, and they succeeded to be mevatel, to nullify those decrees. And that day, they went and made a yontif. So the 28th day of Adar, they were mevatled all these 3 gzeres, and they made it a big yontif. And that's what's written in Megilas Tanis. Now, we're talking about the time of the Romans. This is the time after technically, it means it was a time after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And you're writing of something in Megilas Tanis after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So why would you even think that Megilas Tanis was taken away when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed if we see clearly a factual stuff that the dates were added? If you would say Megilas Tanis was taken away, he's saying that the dates written in Megilas Tanis were bottled, and then you write more dates, and you're adding more dates in Megilas Tanis. It doesn't make sense. It must be Megilas Tanis was not bottled. Now here, mentioned a very interesting thing, the three things. This is not the first time we see that the governments decreed specific 3 things: Mila Shabbos and so the Mashal here, we'll jump into the Mashal, very short Mashal. Mashal explains. The Mashal and every Gemarrah is different. The Mashal explains here in the back. The Gemarrah should be right after the Gemarrah. Basically, why throughout generations, why did it always pick these 3 things: Torah, Shabbos, and Mila? The Mashal explains, basically, the first Mashal in the small letters, that he came to mevatel of the 3 mitzvahs that the Yidden are different than the Goyim. Because the Torah says, the Torah is your wisdom, the Yidden is not the Goyim, so it separates them from the Goyim. Shabbos and Mila ksiv, again, Shabbos and Mila are considered the Ois. So therefore it's different, Beini Benechem, between Eibush, so it's different. The Mashal adds a very interesting note, and I looked it up, it's really interesting. Maseches Meila is brought down the same idea, that the Rebbe Reuven was mevatel something, the same 3 gzeres in a different generation. What happened there? Over there they came and said, no Shabbos, no Mila, and if your wife is a nida, you have to be boiled. You have to be with her with a nida. So the Reuven, they didn't know what to do. So the Reuven, Ben, I forgot the guy's name is. He went and he got himself a haircut, a hairstyle. What? No. So the Reuven went and he got himself a hairstyle like the Romans have, so it would not stick out. And by the way, this is one of the sources where a lot of the people today say that if you need to do business, etc., you can look like you can have a chup, you can have this, because it's based on this the Reuven. But he had a shus from the Chacham to do that, and he basically walked into the Senate, and he talked to them and told them like this: if you have an enemy, would you want them to be rich or poor? I said poor. So why'd you make them work on Shabbos? If they work more, I'll be richer. Okay, I said, yeah, very good idea. Shabbos off. You wanted them to be strong or weak? So weak. Bliss makes you weaker. Yalla. So they put it back on. So they said, do you want them to have a lot of kids or little kids? So why are you forcing them to be with the wives during the niddah? You're saying that they must be together, and then they'll have more kids. So basically, the mevatel that. The Gemarrah says later on that. The Gemara says later on it was taken back, and Shimon and Elazar and Yosid, they brought it back. They managed to go down and bring it back. And I forgot any, but they managed to go down and cancel this whole thing. Anyways, so there's always these 3 things. So now we're basically having a question: if Megilas Tanis was bottled, how come they added a date, the 28th day of Adar, which is obviously technically basically happened after Beis HaMikdash was destroyed? Says the Gemara, 5 lines on the bottom. Maybe you would answer, that this story happened during the times of Beis HaMikdash. Maybe this story on the 28th Adar also happened in the time of Beis HaMikdash, when the Yidden did not rule anymore, when the Goyim ruled the Etzistal. Rabbi Yehuda ben Shamua says, no, you can't say that. This story was with Yehuda ben Shamua. Yehuda ben Shamua was a Talmud of Rabbi Meir. The Meir was a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was a Talmud of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer was a Talmud of Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai was the Tana that was around by the destruction, the famous story with the shoe, with the foot. What? Yeah, Yavna Chachamel. So basically, this is many generations later. It can't be that the Beis HaMikdash was standing. Meir was way after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. How do we know that Yehuda ben Shmuel was a Talmud of Meir? Because it says like this: that Nan, as a side story, a glass vessel, if it becomes tummy, you cannot purify it. It doesn't work. The only way is if you take it apart and rebuild it. And also the halacha is that only a vessel can become tummy. If you have a vessel that's tummy and you take it apart and it's not a vessel anymore, then you put it back together, it's now toil. It's toil. So here is the same thing. Kleis chuchis, a glass vessel, shenik, where they made holes in it. It was tummy, they made holes. Now it's not a vessel anymore. It can't be used as a vessel, as a kli. So now it's toil. And he put inside avod, he put inside lead, and basically mended the vessel somehow, and now you can use this vessel. So now, once it's used as a vessel again, we have to find out: does it go back to the original status of tumah, or is it a new keli? So Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, Yehuda ben Shamua metam Shemra Meir. Yehuda ben Shamua, the name of his teacher, said it's tameh. But that's the machlokes over there. Why exactly? It talks about that when it comes to a vessel made out of metal, they made a gzela. It's really that's toil, but they made a gzela that it should be tameh d'Rabbanan. So the glass vessel of machlokes, but Yehuda ben Shmuel said in the name of Rabbi Meir, which was his teacher, that it's still tameh. Anyways, we see that Yehuda ben Shmuel was a Talmud of a male, and so this story that Yehuda ben Shmuel went down to Rome and met this Matulnisa, met this lady, and he did a demonstration at night, must have been many generations after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, 4 or 5 generations after. So it must be that the Megilas Tanis was not batel when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. It was still around, because how otherwise would you add the story? So the Gemarrah basically comes down and to a different machlokes. Tanoihi, it's a machlokes of Tanoim. The machlokes we had in Daf Chesam base was a machlokes of Amodoim, whether it's batel or not. They cannot really say something that's going against facts. So now we're bringing the big guns, the Tanoim. The Tani Hayom Eila Ksuvim Megilas Tanis is a blatt. It says that the dates that are written in Megilas Tanis, Bein Bizman Beis Hamikdash Kayam, Bein Bizman She'en Beis Hamikdash Kayam. These are the dates that are valid when the Beis Hamikdash is standing and when Beis Hamikdash is not standing. As soon they are also, you cannot do a tainus, you cannot do a hesbet, you cannot fast, you cannot eulogize. It says the dates stayed, but in the times of Beis Hamikdash Kayam, you're not allowed to fast and allowed to eulogize, because now all these dates are happy dates. In the times of Beis Hamikdash was destroyed and the Galus, then you're allowed to fast because it's already the entire period of time after Beis Hamikdash was destroyed is a time of Avel. Very interesting. The Gemarrah finishes off. V'hilchasa batlu. The halacha is that the Megilas Tanis was batel, meaning that the book is there, but the dates you cannot fast. V'hilchasa loy batel, but the halacha is also that it wasn't batel. How can you say that the halacha is it was batel? The halacha is not batel. What's going on here? But this is talking about Chanukah and Purim. It's never going to be batel. Chanukah and Purim was not batel. Kan b'shayim, the other dates are not batel. So the meforshim asks a very simple question here, a very simple, straightforward question. The Ran asks us. We said on Daf Yt.א-Yt.b and Aleph on top, we said that all the dates that are written down in Megilas Tanis, because these were dates added later on as Yemei Simcha, happy days, in order to strengthen it, we said that Ed of that date and Matzah that date, so the day before and the day after, you can also not fast, and you also cannot do Tanis. So it's 3 days, day before, day after, and the day between. However, the dates that are written in the title, Pesach, Sukkot, don't need chizuk, they don't need strengthening, and therefore only that day, but only that day, and that's it. No before and after. Chanukah and Purim are dates written down in Megilas Tanis. They're not written down in the Torah, written down in Megilas Tanis. So, what about that? So, the day before, the day after. But Purim, we see Purim the day before. If it doesn't fall on Sunday, the day before we fast. So how can you do that? So that's a simple answer. The answer we said before, that Divrei Kabbalah is Kedivrei Torah Dama. Divrei Kabbalah, which is basically anything written down in Ksuvim, is considered like what's it called? Chanukah itself is not a question because Chanukah itself, the day before Chanukah you can fast. We don't have a public fast day that day. But Purim, we're allowed to fast because it's considered like Divrei Torah. I don't know. Yeah? So, because it's written in Ksuvim, it's part of the 24 books of Tanakh. So that... Yeah. So the it's brought down the Taka that the meforshim say that because of this whole thing that whenever there was something good happening in a certain community, people should actually accept upon themselves that it's a yontif. Yeah. That's it. He does kiss of Okay. All right. So now we finished this Gemarrah. We have a small piece of a Gemarrah here. We said in the Mishnah, that the Chachamim would send out messengers 6 times a year to tell us when Rosh Chodesh was, because it's important to know when the Yontif that's following. So we said that we send out on Elul. There's no Yontif in Elul. However, Tishrei you can't send out, because Tishrei is on the first day. Elul you send out so they can do the count 29 days and make the 30th day Rosh Hashana. Okay? So that's you send on Elul. Then Tishrei you again send out. Why? It says to make sure we know when Sukkot is, when Yom Kippur is. Okay, so Zag the Gemarrah Lakasha. Tanya Rabashim. No, sorry, wrong page. Kiv al Elul Mipnei Rosh Hashana Val Tishrei when Nitakanas Moedes. Friday Gemarrah. Kiv and Nafkalo Elul Al Tishrei Lamoli. If they walked out, they send messengers. Elul to let us know when Tishrei is. Why do you need Tishrei? If you would say Dilma Elul, maybe they made Elul instead of 29 days. They made it 30 days, and now Rosh Hashana is a day later. So that you don't have to worry about. Why? The Omar Abchina Bar Kahana said, Omar Rabbi Mimois Ezra, from the days of Ezra and on, ve'elech lematzinu Elul for hundreds of years, you never found that Elul was 30 days. Elul was always 29 days. So for that alone, we don't need to send out messengers in Tisha, because if you send out a messenger for Elul, you know when Tisha is going to be. For hundreds of years, Elul was always 29 days. And the times of Ezra, they had a different thing, and they sometimes made Elul 30 days. But from Ezra on, hundreds of years later, nothing. Let me say El Mu'uba. And for the Gemarrah, Loi Matzino, we didn't find that Elul came at a month of 30 days. The Lo Yitztarach, because nothing required us to make it 30 days. Later on in Daf Chav, the Gemarrah is going to bring down a few conditions that even if those conditions are met, even if the month should be 29 days and Aiden didn't come, they'll make it a Chodesh Me'ubal anyways, because a certain cheshbonos, if someone died, or if there's too many dead people, etc., they made a whole thing. But the Gemarrah basically is saying that just because from Ezra now it was never 30 days does not mean that it couldn't happen. And if it could happen, we need to notify the people that it happened, that Tisha is going to be a day later, and Yom Kippur is going to be a day later, etc. If that's the case, that Tisha that Elul could be 30 days, you're basically messing up the Rosh Hashana for anyone that lives far away from Yerushalayim. If you would say Elul is always 29 days, and everyone knows Rosh Hashana is on the 30th day, everyone knows when Rosh Hashana is, but if Rosh Hashana could possibly be a day later, people are going to have Rosh Hashana on the wrong day. It's Mekalkal Rosh Hashana. What Mekalkal Rosh Hashana? And for the Gemarrah, Mutav Tekalkal Rosh Hashana, rather that Rosh Hashana be mekulkal, be moved in the wrong date, and not all the subsequent Yom Tovim. I rather give up Rosh Hashanah so that all the other time Yom Tovim to follow will be in the correct time. Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, etc.
1 second. The Lo Yitzrich means that in the days of Rabbi Yochanan.
I was talking about the case. In the case of Itzrich,
yeah.
So even in the days of Ezra, it's not pshat that.
Even from Ezra and on, they just never needed. They just never.
Hundreds of years never happened.
That never happened. Yeah. But I'm saying the scenario could happen, and therefore you can't rely on that.
So he's saying it's better to have Rosh Hashanah on time.
No, better to have Rosh Hashanah on a wrong date. On a wrong date, and then in Yom Kippur at least you're having on the right date. Sukkot is the right date. Today in a second. Yalshana you can't check. Yes, the cops. Yes, the cops. Yeah, yes, the cops. Because if let's say when you relied on the moon to make it a new month, so when does the moon show up? Around Rosh Chodesh. But you can't send out a message from Yerushalayim to the rest of the world on Rosh Hashana. Messages can travel, so you can only travel 2 days later to Rosh Hashana. So in Golos, anywhere further than Yerushalayim, far away, they made Rosh Hashana on the 30th day. But what if in Yerushalayim Rosh Hashana was the next day, really the 31st day? So anyways, that's Yerushalayim couldn't send a message. So it says. So it doesn't say here, but the simple reason is not fasting Yom Kippur is involved with the Issa Kodesh. Right. Yeah, but not blowing shofar on the Shoshana is what? What are you? What's it called? You're not standing hours and hours in shul, or you're standing a different day. It's a shod, standing a different shul. But yeah, Yom Kippur involves the Sukkos. It does also involves Muftis Esther, but Yom Kippur really is a Kodesh if you don't fast. So you need to know when Yom Kippur is. Anyway, so that's basically. So the Gemara finishes off and says that in the Mishnah itself, it alludes to this idea that Rosh Hashanah, the sending out messengers after Rosh Hashanah, is to be metaken the moedas. Because the Mishnah says the economic dikton al tisha. It doesn't say mipnei moedas because it doesn't say mipnei sukkahs and mipnei Yom Kippur. It says mipnei takonas moedas. I want to fix and make sure the Yontav is on the right date. Shma'amina, that yes, Tishrei you send out, even though technically it's always 29 days. Elul is always 29 days. You always will know when Rosh Hashanah is, but you'll send it out in case it changed in order to fix the right dates of Rosh Hashanah. And the meforshim, Tosis and other meforshim, it discusses how it was true that in the times of Ezra, and Chag Malachis Chale, they had Elul 29 days, the 30 days. Ganze Meise with Soida Ibul, but anyways, but from Ezra on, it never happened. Today also we know that Elul is always Chavtes in 29 days. Okay, says the Gemarrah Vaital. Says the Gemarrah Vaital. Ve'ilu v'al Kislev and Chanukah, they send out messengers Kislev to let us know what Chanukah is, and other because of Purim. What happens if they decided to make the year a leap year, other Sheni? So would you have to send it for the Sheni or not? So if the year was made into a leap year late, we don't say that you send out. Our mission does not say that you send out other Sheni. Why not? So the Mishnah argues with the Rebbe. The Tanya, it says in the Brayz, the Rebbe says that indeed, if there are two others, if they decide late to make two others, you'll send out the first other to let us know when the first purim should be, and the people in Chutzlah that's really made purim that for the regular purim in the first other, and the next month they find out, we got to do it again. So now, what's the reason our Mishnah does not say that? We should really need to know when purim is. So the Mishnah must listen, and not only that, but not only that. Maybe let's say that the Machlokes within Rebbe in our Mishnah, Rebbe says you send out messengers. Our Mishnah says you don't send out messengers for other Sheni. What is the Machlokes? The Ma'asav kal mitzvahs noigas b'sheni noigas b'rishon. Our Mishnah says that all the mitzvahs, all the additional Sheni, you have to do all the mitzvahs in both, and therefore, if you do it the first time, you're yotze. And therefore, you don't have to send a message a second time. You did put them already. You don't have to do it in the second month. You did it already. You did Mishlach Manas, Matalas Lavyayin, Mishta, Migel, everything. Or Ma'asava, the Rebbe says, no, Kol HaMitzvahs HaNoigas B'Sheni, Ein HaNoigas B'Rishon. The mitzvahs that you have to do put them, you do not apply for the first month. You don't do anything in the first month. And therefore, even if you did it the first month, it doesn't help. You weren't Yoitze put them. So therefore, the Rebbe says, send out messengers. Mashengen, our Tana says, don't send a messenger because it doesn't make a difference. You did put him ready. It's good. And for the Loy, no, the Kula Alme, everyone agrees. Everyone agrees that you don't have to redo them. That the mitzvahs in the first month don't count, and you would have to redo it. So why does our mission not send out messengers? Our Machlokes is with Ibul Shana. when you decide to make a leap year, what happens then? How many days do you add to the year? The Tanya how many days is a leap year? Lamad Yoim. That's the Tana Kama says 30 days. By the way, when you add a leap year, you don't add the second Adar, you add the first Adar. Adar Rishon becomes the leap month. Adar Sheni is the main thing. So what do you add? You're adding 30 days. No, you add a Chodesh. Typically, a Chodesh is 29 days. Every month is 29 days. So the Tana Kama says 30 days, and Rabbi Shimon says a Chodesh. Okay, if that's the case, so now we have to look in Tosfos for a second. Masnisin de loy kalevi. Very interesting Tosfos. Ve'im toima asks Tosfos. Ula Tana didan. Our Tana is not sending out messengers, we said. Even though Purim is coming, second month of others is here, Purim is coming, we're not sending out messengers. The Tosfos is going to ask a simple question. If you don't send out messengers for on a second Purim, the Yidden in the Chutzlares are going to make Pesach on Yudal Adar, which is in their mind is Yudal is Tesvav Nisan. They're going to make Pesach then. And then 2 weeks later, the wives find out we got to re-clean the whole house. I don't have to come. So basically, ve'im time effect is ulatana de dan kivin the lafkel oder sheni. If they didn't go out the second order to let us know when the real Purim is happening, how would the people in the Chutzlares know that there's a second order here? So the Gemarrah, we had it in the past. The Gemarrah said that they were later on. They decided that they will do the ibul of order from Rosh Hashana on. If they do it early, if they did the ibul, they decided that's a leap year. If they did it early enough, so the previous messengers let them know in Chutzlares that's a ibul, that's fine. But if between the Chodesh Adar, the Chodesh came, they now know what day the Chodesh Adar is. They send out messengers. The messengers left already. A day later, they decide, let's make 2 others. How are they going to find out? So they can send the second messengers. What happens if it's too late and we're not going to find out? How are the people in Chutzlares going to know? Because Allah says, we had this in the past, that you can, until Chavtes Adar, you can make Ibul, you can make this year a leap year. According to one opinion of Purim. Anyways, basically, how are they going to find out it's a leap year? How are they going to find out that they're not making Pesach in 30 days after Purim? So it's very simple. What happens is, you send out messengers for Adar. Okay? Then we send out messengers for Nisan as well for Pesach. Yeah? So, the people in Chutzlares are going to see, we send out messengers for Adar. A month passes by. Now the new messengers are supposed to come. They give it a week. They give it a week and 2-3 days. No one shows up. It's like, it must be that they added a month. And therefore now we're doing Purim again. So that's how they would find out in the Chutzlares. According to our Tana, how would they find out whether it's a leap year or not? They would find out, according to Bix, no one shows up. They'll find out other was added. So basically, you clean your house, you bake the matzahs, you buy the wine, everything, and then you find out, I got another month.
Nice.
Yeah, so, they'll find as soon as the Chodesh Nisan comes and no one shows up, they'll find out. So now let's go back in the Gemarrah. What do we say? The Machlokes is how many days do you add? 30 or 29? So basically, if you add 30 days, if you always add 30 days, and now comes the Chodesh of the first Adar. We got a messenger that tells us Chodesh was this and this day. Purim is going to be in 2 weeks. Okay, they count from the Chodesh that they now know which day it was. They count 29 days. That's usually they count all the 29 days. They wait 2 weeks. They wait a week and a half. No one shows up. They realize that the last Adar was really the Adarishan. So if they know always the Adarishan is always going to be 30 days. Okay, if they know the Adarishan is always going to be 30 days, automatically you'll know when the Chodesh Adar Sheni is. Okay, so therefore you don't have to send a messenger for Chodesh Sheni because you count 30 days. As soon as those messengers didn't show up for Nisan, they realized the first Adar is going to be 30 days. So do your count. You don't need a messenger for that. You know, from the day that they told us, 30 days, and 14 days later, it's Purim. So, Zad Gemarrah, basically, what? 14 days is going to be yt.א-yt.b, which is Purim. So basically, saying that because an our Mishnah, the Tana holds that the first Rish Adal is always going to be 30 days, you don't have to send a messenger for the second Adal. Okay? So it's basically, that's what Gemara is saying. The machlokes is whether it's 30 days or 29 days. If it's 30 days and you know exactly it's 30 days, you don't need to send a messenger because you know when a Chodesh is going to be. You know when a Chodesh Adasheni is going to be. The same way that they know if you go according to the opinion that 30 days are being added, if you go according to the opinion that 29 days are always added, you also know the date. So you can't say the machlokes is between the Tana and Reb Shimon Gamliel. Rav Papa, no, Chodesh does not mean 29 days. Chodesh means mandam a Chodesh. It's like this: make it a month. A month, sometimes it's 29 days, sometimes it's 30. Basically, you're going to base it again on the Eidim. Yeah? Mandam a Chodesh, what's a Chodesh, what's a Shlashim? You could do 29 days, or you can make it 30 days. And therefore, it's not known. So, Rebbe says, like Shimon Gamliel, that we don't know how many days Adar is going to be. The first Adar is going to be. It depends on the moon. So therefore, because they cannot rely on that, they have to send messengers for the second Sheni, Adar Sheni. But according to the Tanakama that says it's always going to be 30 days, Adar Rishon is always going to be 30 days. As soon as I know the date of Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon, I know the date for Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. It's always going to be 30 days later. Okay, that ends this Gemarrah. Basically, according to our Tana, because it's always 30, we don't have to send messengers. And that's why our Tana doesn't mention in the Mishnah. Rabbi disagrees. Hey, Rabbi Shua ben Levi mishum kahola kadisha l'shalayim. Rabbi Shua ben Levi said a witness statement in the name of the holy congregation of Shalayim. Who is the holy congregation of Shalayim? He said it was a group of people in Shalayim that basically separate themselves. There's a few opinions what they did. Some say they learned Torah a third of the day, they davened a third of the day, and they worked a third of the day. Some say that they did only learning and davening in the winter month, and in the summer month they basically worked. Davened and worked. Basically, so they realized they only need to do whatever they need to do to have panasa. The rest of the time they dedicated themselves to learning. So they're called Kahal Kadisha. Okay. That in the Kahal Kadisha they said that the both of the others they are always 30 days. The day they become Ibal Chodesh. So both Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni is always going to be 30 days. Lemeima, this is basically, you're telling me, B'yom means on the 30th day. So they're always going to be 29 days. Sorry. Shnei Adam Shemekadosh Oisen B'yom the 30th day, which would have been the Ibal day, that day is a Chodesh. So basically, remember the Chasein of Dinan, that both others are always 29 days, and it's called Chasein, and it's missing a day. Milei and Levdin, we don't do both others 30 days. La Fuka is, that's what they said. La Fuka, this is coming in this agreement. Midadosh Rab Nachman Chizda, what Rab Nachman Chizda taught us. Hey, Rab Simoy b'shem Chagich Schaya Malachi. Rab Simoy said a witness statement. He said basically over in the words in the name of Chagich Schaya Malachi the Nevi'im al Shnei Adaim, both others. So you can do whatever you want. If you want to make both 30 days, you could do. Shneim Chasein, if you want to make both others 29 days, you can do that way. If you want to make Echad Molev, Echad Chasad, one full, Adar Rishon full, and the second one Chasad, Adar Sheni Chasad, Oisin. That's was the minhag in Golos. That's what they did. This is just stating facts. In the name of the Rebbe, which the Galash is Lav, always the first one is going to be Male, just like we have today, and the second one is going to be 29 days. Unless you have statements by witnesses that no, that the moon was seen at a certain time. Okay. I mentioned the Marsha already. I think there was another Marsha. I think we're going to stop here. I think there was one more mashal that was interesting. I mentioned, okay. All right, we'll stop here. This is where I got up to. And a few minutes to finish Chidas Rambam again.